Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pursuit 365, the Real Estate and Finance Fridays edition, presented by yours truly, Shelly Smee. Today, we're going to talk about co-housing again, and there is an equity member, which means an early adopter, for the Compass Co-housing Group, which is forming in Langley, British Columbia. And today we welcome Laura Baker to the call. Laura, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
So, Laura, I was passed on your name by one of the other members of your forming group. Can you give me a little bit of background of how you came to um, learn about co-housing and what appeals to you about the whole idea of co-housing?
Sure. Um, well, I learned about co-housing the way most people do, probably. I was skiing at Lake Tahoe, and I asked the lady next to me on the chairlift, where she was from. And she was from Sacramento, and she said she lived in the co-housing community there. And I had never heard of that before. And so she explained it to me, and I thought, oh, that sounds really cool. And then she invited me for a tour. So I went over there and had a tour. So it's Southside Park Co-housing, which is one of the oldest ones in the U.S. And I just thought it was really great. She had two young kids and had a husband who worked out of town a lot. So she was explaining how helpful it was to have, um, backup in that way. There was a woman who was retired who helped watch her kids at times, and just really made sense to me. Um, yeah, so that's how I learned about it. That was about 20 years ago, and
Oh,
then
wow.
I was interested in moving to a place like that, but then at that time I remarried, and so it seemed like I didn't really need, a whole community anymore. And then I was thinking about it again later when my son was in high school, and I did actually make an offer on a place at that time, but it would have involved him changing school districts, and I decided in the end that wasn't a good time to pursue it. But I just always wanted to do it. I've never quite gotten there until now.
Excellent. So, when you became aware of the Compass Co-housing, were you planning on moving to Langley, or has it been a fit of what they're offering and location, or what about the Compass Group really sort of appealed to you and made you think, "Aha, this is the one."
Well, I have followed a lot of groups that were forming or have been built for a long time, um, all the way from all the way from California to Newfoundland, and places in between. Um, but the one in Langley, British Columbia, was the perfect one for me. First of all, it's just a group of the nicest people, and I mean, I had been going to some of their meetings and getting to know the people, and I just thought, these are my kind of people. These are the people that I would like to have as neighbors. So it's partly that, and then partly British Columbia is beautiful. And so I'm from California, but I had lived in Newfoundland and gotten permanent residency in Canada while I was in Newfoundland. But trying to live in Newfoundland and California is highly impractical. It's just so far away, even though the people are lovely and the place is beautiful. So British Columbia seemed a lot more accessible from California. And so I went up there to see their piece of land. And what I love about it is that it's in the township of Langley, which is, you know, for me, which is convenient because it's not far over the U.S. border, so I can drive back and forth to California. I mean, it's a 2-day drive, but
Hmm.
it's doable. But it's close to the downtown area of the township of Langley, and it's it's within walking distance of everything you could ever need, which to me is just very, like, I may not have a car. I may not want to have a car when I'm there. And so I don't need one. I can walk to all the stores and restaurants and services. Um, so that's really appealing to me. In fact, there's an apartment or a condo complex across the street, just down the street a little bit, and I saw these two older men in their little mobility scooters, riding across the street to the shopping center. And I thought, oh, that could be me in 20 years, no matter what. If I can't drive anymore, or I just don't want to have a car, or, I can get to the things that I need conveniently. And yet it's beautiful, surrounded by trees and Mount Baker in the distance. And
Yeah, it backs onto a green space, doesn't it?
yeah, there's I think it's called Anderson Park, which has
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to walk. That's the other thing, is I love to walk, and I walk around. I lived on the property for a while, and so I walked around the neighborhood every day. There's the Willoughby Trail there. You can walk to Costco um, on a beautiful path where you're just looking at Mount Baker the whole way. It's the perfect combination of beauty and convenience there.
Excellent. Well, I drove by the site on my way to the pool at Guildford in Surrey because I'm involved in diving, in the sport of diving,
Oh,
and that's what actually put it on my radar. I was driving that way, and I was like, "Wow, here's the sign! Like this is happening." And I live at Cranberry Commons, which is a 22-year-old co-housing um, group community.
right.
No, they're not just condos, although there are different types of ownership structures that these types of communities can follow. I think in BC, the majority of them have followed the condominium style where you own your unit and it is run like a condominium. It's not like a co op per se, as far as owning shares in a corporation and the corporation owning the building and the units. So I think it's one of those things out in the universe that I'm really striving to help my colleagues in the realty space understand about co-housing, because it is a community, and certainly in our community it's multi-generational. We have one family here who their mother lives in a unit, they live in a unit. Their kids grew up here and are no longer here full time, but come back at Christmas. And certainly, one of the things that really appeals to me, um, as I have a pretty large extended family, is having a common house, having a gathering place where, I might not be able to cook all my Christmas goodies in my kitchen and have enough room, where I might not be able to host 20 or 30 people at a gathering, where most co-housing, the foundations of co-housing communities is having a common area that people can use as a community, as opposed to just having their own homes and you come and go and come and go. Do you have an idea at this point of the age mix or the family mix of the people that have already joined up?
Yes, there are people of all ages. There's a few families with children, and also, um, single people who are retired, or couples, or So there's a mix. We would love to have more families join us with kids. So we'll see what happens with the remaining units.
Right. So it's my understanding there's 20 spoken for, 2021 spoken for,
29,
and
I think.
20
29. Uh-huh.
29. Oh, okay. And then about 9 left or 10 left?
11, I think. Yeah, there's 40
11.
units altogether.
40
Right.
units. Okay. So things are ticking along. People had better get on the bandwagon or they could miss out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we hope to start construction this summer or early fall. And so it's a really exciting time.
Excellent. So, what are some of the other community amenities that the group sees putting in place for your
Yeah, that's
community? Because that's another thing. People that are involved early on help set the priorities for how they want their amenity spaces to function, I believe.
right. That's true. And so we had a design of our common house, which was quite large, a little bit inefficient. Um, and so we decided to have Chuck Durrett, the famous architect who originally brought co-housing to the United States, to come up at the end of this month, July, to do a whole weekend session to redesign the common house and make it more more efficient and have less wasted space, and also so that all the new members who weren't here when it was originally designed can have a say in how it looks and what it has. But the things that we anticipate having are a workshop, for woodworking or whatever, a large workshop in the parkade, and several multi-purpose rooms for crafts and exercise and music and yoga, whatever we decide to use them for. Possibly a co-working space if people want to work at home but not at home. Of course, we'll have 2 guest rooms for guests of members who come to stay, and a large dining room and a kitchen, everything like that for community dinners and regular, weekly, a few times a week community dinners and other activities. And there's a children's playroom and a children's playground area outside, and a grassy area in the middle between the 2 buildings. But it'll be really exciting to go through that process with Chuck, I think, and really fine tune the building and make it not just make it more efficient, but also I think Chuck will help us make the community building part, like the places where we're likely to run into each other and have those kind of neighborly interactions, that he'll help us maximize the design for that, for the for community meeting and mingling in the building that happens naturally. Oh, and it
Oh,
also has,
that's excellent to
yeah.
have such a recognized person be able to come and help facilitate with the group.
Yes, we're really excited, and I think other people are able to come to that. Other people who are interested in the community. I'm not sure what the details are, how that'll work, but if you go to our website at compasscohousing.com, I'm sure there's details there.
Yes, and I'll be putting a lot of those links in the bottom part of the YouTube post when
Great.
we take this live. What are some of the other considerations people should take into account when they're considering co-housing? Um, I know, for instance, as these communities evolve, um, depending on the makeup of the community, I know some communities have lots of community meals. I know at our group we have one potluck a week. Just as things evolved over the years, there aren't as many people that are able to commit their time to being, on meal duty per se. So, what kind of personality or what kind of values do you think attract people to co-housing?
Well, personality wise, I've heard that there's a lot of introverts in co-housing because they they want their private space, right, their private living unit, but also want the ability to interact with people. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard. But a ideal person for co-housing is someone who wants to know their neighbors, to interact with their neighbors, wants the ability to um, ask for a favor, like a ride to the airport, or offer something like, I've made too many cookies. Can someone come take them away? Like those kinds of sharing interactions, receiving and giving help to the people, that are nearby, that are your neighbors.
What I found really, really, I guess, enriching, I'm trying to think of the right word, but you really do have those interactions. It's not just coming and going the way when I lived in a condo tower or other buildings. Sometimes you get to know people on the elevator or, doing things. But with the way that our particular buildings are structured, we have a central courtyard. And, we have, especially now the weather's better, we have the patio tables out, and, you know, it's not necessarily that you feel obligated to participate, but it's more natural of, hey, a bunch of us are getting together on the upstairs deck on Thursday evening after work. And, just having some things that are structured, like the watering the garden schedule, because the garden needs to get watered.
Mm-hmm.
But other things that are more sort of spontaneous just seem to happen. And it's, you know, getting to see the kids grow up over the last 3 years that I've been here. It's just, time goes by really quickly. And to be able to say, hey, can somebody feed my dog? I'm going to not be home from work. Or, just having those kinds of people that you would trust to have a key to your home, and you're not going to
Right.
feel weird if somebody, does you a favor or you do them a favor. It's just sort of a natural part of being in a community.
Exactly. And I think one thing that I read is that, I mean, there's an expectation that neighbors will know each other, and so you have permission to ask how they're doing, or ask where they're going on vacation. Like if I asked a neighbor in a regular neighborhood, they might worry about telling me because maybe you know that they're going to get robbed while they're on vacation, or like they worry about those kinds of things. But that wouldn't be, so it's a having the permission to really have a conversation with your neighbors and not feel like you're overstepping some you know unwritten rule about how
Hmm.
well you can know each other or what you can talk about.
Well, when I first moved here, it was sort of the near halfway through COVID, nearing
Mm.
the end of COVID. And it was kind of sad because we weren't having community meals. And a lot of things that the community had been doing before COVID and before lockdown took a while to get back going again. But I'm really glad to hear that a lot of the co-housing groups I speak to have most of their regular programming, if you want to call it that, programming, um, back. Um, with the build out of Compass, and I'm in the industry. I know things don't always go according to plan based on, your so many different factors, but usually more to do with your municipality and getting, getting all the permits and everything checked in time. Um, is that you hope to be done by a certain date? Do you guys have an idea of what your hope to be done by date is at this point?
Well, our builder, Lark, feels confident that once we get started, they can provide a firm timeline. I think it's going to be 19 months. So
Oh, okay.
they feel confident that it'll be 19 months from when we start. So then the question is when we start. So we're just finishing up the last details. We have to finalize the construction loan and have the required number of reservations uh, to qualify for the construction loan, and we have to pay for the building permit, which has been approved. Um, and so it's just those kinds of final details that we're wrapping up. And so we're very optimistic that it should be built by the end of next year if we start, this fall. Is that right? No,
Mm-hmm.
no, 2026. Sorry, it should be done in 2026. Um,
Excellent.
so yeah, that's really exciting because the people who originally, got together and started this have been working on it for 7 years or maybe more. It takes a long time to get everything all organized.
Yes, it does. And I mean, when you're basically self building a community, if it makes you feel any better, most developers that buy land are in that 5 to 7 year range as well.
Okay,
Uh,
that's good.
yeah, even if you're, Mr. or Mrs. Deep Pockets developer, the way things go with cities and zoning and planning and government dilly dallying into the different um, requirements. We've recently also had a provincial government that has told all the municipalities, but wait, you can put more than four houses on a single family lot now. And, said go back to the drawing boards, redo your official community plans based on this as an assumption. And a lot of the communities are like, well, that's great that you're going to say that, but most community plans take years and years to develop, and they're usually in place for between 20 and 30 years of of planning time. So having a community that's already been approved and having, a project that's already been approved, that's often the most challenging part when the landscape is always changing. So that's very encouraging, because there are some groups that really never make it past, the first year or two of enthusiastic people who have this vision for what they want, and then time goes on, and all the process that goes into, being individuals and having other parts of their lives, as well as basically acting as a volunteer for the
Right.
vision of what their future home could possibly be. It's a long stretch out. Have
Yeah.
you been involved since the beginning, or how long have you been a part of the Compass group?
I first started following their project and coming to some of the meetings in 2020, I think, when I was living in Newfoundland. Um, and then I joined a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago next month. Um, so yeah, it is an amazing amount of work to get it off the ground, but we bought the land couple of months ago, and so, you know, we're really close. That's
Well,
really exciting.
that's very exciting, Laura. I really appreciate you taking the time today to share your enthusiasm for the Compass Co-housing group, and wish you all the best of luck in the next few
Thanks.
months as you guys kind of get this to the next goal post. And I believe next week I'm going to have one of the realtors that has also become a member,
Right.
um,
Surely.
Shirley, who is going to be talking about the sales process. So that's great.
Yeah.
We'll link that up, and hopefully we'll see you on a Zoom. I plan on coming to the planning Zoom,
Okay.
checking it out.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it, and it was nice talking to you.
Great. Thanks, Laura. Have a great rest of the week.
Okay, you too.
Hey, take care.